1 Kings chapter 6, verse 29. There we read, And he carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figures of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers within and without. You notice here, and that's a very good question. I years ago I asked that question also, wondering how to understand this, because we do know that God identifies himself with the cherubim. Like, for example, in the Garden of Eden, when Adam and Eve were driven out of the Garden of Eden, God placed cherubim at the entrance with a flaming sword, and those cherubim represented God as the judge. But the word cherubim is also applicable to people. We read this in, in Ezekiel chapter 28. In Ezekiel 28, where God is speaking about mankind, and he says in verse 14 of Ezekiel 28, "Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire." So originally mankind was called a cherub because we were created in the image of God. So the word cherub can be related, can be thought about as talking about mankind. Now notice in 1 Kings chapter 6 that he carved figures of cherubims and palm trees. And if we go to Psalm 92 maybe? Psalm 92, we read in verse 12, "The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon." And so the palm trees and the cherubim were actually pictures or carvings of mankind, but not of God. They could not be looked upon as carvings of God, because then they would be in violation of Exodus 20, where it says we're not to make any image of God.